Hello, I'm Chester Connell of Off the Grid Media. At Off the Grid Media, we focus on heritage, environment, and agriculture. At this time, we focus on agriculture, and with me is somebody who knows something about it. In fact, she is an economist who uses her knowledge in the area, and in particular in St. Vincent and the Grenadines at this time. Her name is Mrs. Indira Sajuan Ali. She is from the University of the West Indies, and in particular from the CCFC, the Caribbean Centre for Competitiveness, which is a UE initiative. Indira, thanks for joining us, and thanks for coming to St. Vincent to share this wonderful information.
Thank you very much, Chester. It's a pleasure to be here.
Indeed. Now, let's get straight to the point. What is the CCFC?
Okay, well, the Caribbean Centre for Competitiveness is a centre that has been set up particularly to support regional governments and private sector entities with respect to increasing competitiveness towards sustainable growth and development, and in particular in the context of the whole diversification thrust, which is an imperative that the region faces. Our focus at the CCFC is using global value chain analysis, cluster analysis, and innovation, and how these three very important methodologies or tools really can be used in order to develop strategies for competitive growth of key sectors. In this instance, we're here looking at agriculture in St. Vincent, but it can in fact be applied to any industry, any sector, any cluster. Tell us
a little bit more about GVC, Global Value Chain, and the analysis of the global value chain. What is that?
Okay, well, the analysis really spans from the very, very inception of a product. So if we talk in agriculture, we're talking about even the preparation of the land or even the decision to get into a particular product and to plant it, to the very, very end market. And when we talk about end market, we're not just talking about the users of the fresh produce, but the users of that produce processed to its very end. And we are able to track along the value chain all of the value points and to understand that entire chain. And then it is important to locate the local aspect of that value chain, because very often a country might be operating only in a part of that value chain.
And from what I gather, that is the situation in St. Vincent. Correct. We are absent of that tool, the value chain, and or knowing about the value chain, and that's what you're here to do, to analyze that, to break it up for us, to put it together and help us, farmers and everybody along the value chain, to understand what is needed.
Well, I'm particularly here in the context of a BAM initiative that is really supported by the EU, which is the donor agency. And it really is channeled through the government of St. Vincent, but really in the interest of the entire agricultural sector. And in that context, I've met with your Prime Minister, with the Minister of Agriculture, Minister Caesar. I have also met with the EU, and both entities are very, very supportive in terms of using the centre, largely because it's a regional centre. So that's first, set up for this purpose. Secondly, because the methodology that we're using, even though we're talking global value chain, we're talking about involving the local stakeholders through the entire process. So we're talking about training the local people, local practitioners, all of the stakeholders, whether they belong to the public sector, direct farmers, agencies that support the farmers, or the processing aspect of it. We were looking at training individuals within St. Vincent who will really be the movers and the shakers of the entire process, who will be the ones doing the work on the ground. So this is not about coming in and doing a study another study that's going to sit on a shelf. We know, Chester, that what we suffer in the region is study fatigue. We're not going down there. It's very practical, it's applied focus, and it's about learning and doing, finding our own solutions and moving the process through, not just to having a strategy, but moving it even into implementation. And the centre sees itself playing that very critical hub role in terms of pulling all of the actors together, because even as I mentioned the BAM initiative, there are a number of other donor agencies that are already involved in St. Vincent, and they are also doing work. So how do we align all the ducks then to ensure at the end of the day we can create a cohesive framework through which agriculture can be developed? I mean, with you through these couple of days, I have met with farmers, with public servants, with your Prime Minister, with your Minister, and I feel the passion. I share the passion. Agriculture is critical, and I think it is one of the important areas to grow.
Well, in the last 60 seconds, let's synthesize. Basically, the BAM initiative, the banana accompanying measures, the government has identified certain areas, livestock, fresh fruits and veg, bananas, and you are here to help us understand the value and the value chain as we go through that process.
Yes, correct. I'm here to work with all of the stakeholders in the industry in order to really to do that global value chain analysis, so we can identify clearly a way forward for these particular areas that you have identified, but more importantly, so that we can implement the strategy and that we can have transformation, that it can result in transformation. But CCFC is also here for the long haul, because it's a center to support diversification, whether we're talking agriculture or we're talking manufacturing or we're talking tourism, so that there is so much work to do. That is why the strategy of involving the players in the sector through the entire process is critical.
Indira Sajwan Ali, thank you very much for chatting with me.
Thank you very much for having me.
I've been chatting with Mrs. Indira Sajwan Ali. She's the Executive Director of the CCFC, the Caribbean Centre for Competitiveness, a UE initiative based at St. Augustine in Trinidad. She's here in St. Vincent, as she said, to speak to a number of stakeholders involved in agriculture so that she can implement what the CCFC was set up to do to help us move forward as a nation, as a region. I'm Chester Connell, Off the Grid Media. Thanks for watching.